Hey folks, welcome to the first session of developing a book cover. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Charlie. I am a full-time freelance illustrator, which means all my income, all my bills, everything I have to pay for comes out of my illustration work, and I work for myself. So I'm self-employed. I don't work in any one building or with any one boss or anything like that. I work for myself, so I run my own business. I graduated from NUA, Norwich University of the Arts, in 2014 with my illustration degree. I am the founder and co-organiser of Norwich AOI, which is a meetup group run on behalf of the Association of Illustrators. And I'm a big fan of bright colour, as you can probably already tell. To give you a quick rundown as to how I got into this position, start from the very beginning, which is when I was a kid. I would obsessively draw on everything. Every surface, anything that stood still long enough, I would draw on it. That then progressed into me making decisions with my education. So when I got to GCSE, I decided, yeah, I want to explore art. I want to do more creative things. So I did art at GCSE. On to my A-levels, I obviously continued with that. I did a foundation diploma, which is a 1-year course where you get to explore loads of different areas of the creative arts. I did that at Colchester Institute. Then I went on ahead and I did my degree. Since graduating, I've had a range of part-time jobs, some relevant to illustration, some completely not, but they helped keep my bills paid whilst I was working my way up in my business. So whilst I was doing illustration work along the side. Eventually, I was able to take those scales of freelance income and part-time income and tip it fully into being full-time freelance, which is, like I said, where I'm at today. So here's a quick run through of the kind of work that I do now. I'm mostly based in publishing, so I work with a lot of narrative and character design and books and graphic novels for all ages. That's where I've kind of always wanted to be. It took me a while to realise that. But now that I know that stories and characters are where I like to be creatively, I'm really happy to be working in publishing. So obviously, that's a good link to what we're going to be doing over the next few sessions, because I love book covers. For anything that I want to do for fun, if I'm a bit bored or if I want to create a personal project, you can almost guarantee it will involve a book cover in one way or another. I love them. They're so much fun. There's so much involved with them. And that's why I'm really excited to help you all over the next few sessions to develop your own. As well as book covers just being really fun and publishing being really fun, publishing and working with books and narrative comes with so many other skills, which is another reason why I think it's going to be really good for you to work through these sessions. You'll develop skills in so many areas, including composition and character design, your knowledge of the industry, your knowledge of how to communicate with an audience, printing, working out how things will print and what you need to consider, backgrounds, creative interpretations. There's so much that you can learn through working under a publishing context. And hopefully over the next few sessions, I'll be able to inject as much of that as possible into these sessions, and you can pick up on loads of different areas of creative knowledge. So even if you don't necessarily want to be in publishing or illustration like I am, the skills that you'll pick up over the next few sessions will be cross-transferable across so many different industries and subjects. So let me give you a quick rundown as to what we're going to do in each session. The first session today is going to be focused on building the foundation for this beautiful cover. So that will involve research, visual research, creative research, figuring out your creative voice, which is another way of saying style, idea generation and working out what direction you want to take this in, and then when you have a little nugget of an idea, how we're going to develop that into something more fully fledged. In the second session, we'll be looking at expanding those ideas, turning them into something we can really use. From there, we'll be creating some thumbnails, so working out ideas for our composition and exploring what composition means a bit more in depth. In the third session, we're going to be taking all of these amazing ideas and thumbnails and composition knowledge and turning it into line work. So that's the outline, the more polished outline for your cover. We'll also be looking at the importance of using reference and exploring different materials so you don't have to just get pigeonholed into just using pencils. In session 4, we're going to be finalising this book cover, so doing all the work we need to do to make it finished and beautiful. That'll involve colour, texture, working with the text, because book covers should have some text on them somewhere, and finally creating that final book cover. There's also an additional 5th session, which I normally recommend for years 11 and above, but if you're really interested, you're more than welcome to join in. It's more focused on the creative industries and the career path that publishing has with it. So how you're going to be working your way through these industries, how you can start a career, how you can promote your work on social media and in a portfolio. So more focused on the next step after education. During each session, I'm going to give you some activities, so there'll be things to do, so you don't have to just sit here and listen to me shout about publishing for an hour. I'll give you things to do. So we'll have short little fun activities during the whole thing. You won't need any special equipment, just the basics. By the end of all of these sessions, I really hope you would have had the chance to explore loads of different skills surrounding publishing and visual creative industries, as well as other bonus skills that come with it. Things like leaving your comfort zone, experimenting with lots of different materials, improving your drawing skills, knowing more about the terminology and the knowledge surrounding publishing and illustration, and a little taster into the life of an illustrator. So let's get started with this first session, and like I said, today's session is going to be focused around idea generation. Today, the gear that you're going to need to take part in the little activities will be pens, pencils to draw with, and at least 2 bits of paper, and that can be A4 or A3, whichever you prefer. If you're anything like me, a blank page or a brand new sketchbook or just this blank space that you're being asked to create something on can be quite daunting, and you can get a bit of an art block. I know I get those a lot. But if we take idea generation one step at a time, we can really start to uncover some fascinating and unique ideas, as well as some really useful tools and tips to help ideas come to us quicker. I've broken this down into certain areas for idea generation and how to help ideas come to us better. First of all is being honest with yourself. It can be tempting to fit ourselves into boxes and categories and to focus just on one thing, whether that's in our comfort zone or something we feel like we should be doing. But if we're being really honest with ourselves and being authentic to ourselves and thinking about what we genuinely like and genuinely enjoy, the ideas that we create will come quicker and they will be more original and authentic to us. I'm also going to go over avoiding the roadblocks that our brain creates, like art blocks and getting stuck and looking at that blank page, and the things we can do to avoid that happening very often. Also going to look at input before output, because you can't run a car without some sort of fuel in it. So you need to make sure you are putting things into your brain before you expect it to create something. After that, we're going to look at how we can record these ideas, the best and most comfortable ways for us to get these ideas out of our brain and onto something tangible and usable. And once we have this nugget of an idea that we've developed, we're going to look at honing it. So working out where we can tweak things, how we can make it better gradually, because that's the best way to develop ideas. Like carving it into wood or stone, it's chipping away at the idea until it develops into something you can be proud of. In terms of the process of idea generation, I wish it looked like this. I wish it was a case of someone asks you to do a thing, your genius brain creates a genius idea and it magically arrives and you do the thing. I wish it could look like this. But in reality, what we're doing if we try and make it like this is forcing an idea that is not nearly as original or authentic to you as it should be. Then I guess you do a thing, like you create something, but it's nowhere near as good as you could make it. The best way to make unique, beautiful, true to you ideas is to go through this process. It looks like a bit of a mess and it does take longer, but the thing you end up with at the end is so much better than a forced idea. So embrace the fact that you will change your mind, that things won't go right, that you will do something you're not happy with, because that's all part of the journey of developing anything. Book cover, magazine illustration, final piece, whatever it is, this is the process that you're going to want to go through, and it's the process that you should go through. So first of all, we're going to look at being honest with yourself, a very important part of developing our creative voice as a whole, and just developing ideas as well. It's important as a creative person to know what works best for you and not just go down the routes of things that you've seen someone else do, or you feel like you should be going down that route, or someone else is doing it and you kind of want to do the same thing as them. We need to be more true to ourselves and honest about what we actually enjoy. That's the best way that you're going to find the most inspiration and the most useful work and most useful inspiration for you, is being honest. Closely linked to honesty is this question that I get an awful lot of the time from students who are not sure about whether they're being honest with themselves. And it's, how do I find my style? I get this one all the time. It's what I said at the beginning. Style is often said to be a creative voice or an artistic voice. And it can be tricky to try and discover yours, but there are things that you can bear in mind whilst you're working out your authenticity. Everybody's creative voice changes. It's okay for it to change. It's evolving. You're not being flippant. You're not changing your mind every few seconds. You're just evolving. The most unique voices develop organically, and they develop over time. That's the best way to create a unique voice, is to let it happen. But the first thing you have to do before you can start discovering this is exploring. Especially in the position you're in now, when you're still in education, it's the perfect time to be exploring and trying out loads of different things. So explore first, specialize later. And I know I've said the word honesty 100 times already, but honesty is key for this. There's this fantastic book by Lisa Congdon that I love to bits. It's so useful, and it's all about finding that creative voice and that style that's true to you. And Lisa Congdon explores in the book how your story and so many parts of you play a role in finding this creative voice. So we're going to do a quick explore of our own story and our own creative voice with the Creative Voice worksheet that hopefully you will have either digitally or printed out, whichever you have available. So we're going to answer some questions, and these questions are just about you. So there's no right or wrong answer with this. It's purely about you. First of all, is your favorite color? Then we're going to think about an artist you admire. Do you prefer snow or sun? Favorite item of clothing? What do you do on Sundays? And your favorite month. These might all seem completely irrelevant to drawing, but I promise these small parts of your personality and your opinions and your experiences all play a role in your creative voice. Once you have those answers, we're going to get a little bit trickier and more in depth with them. And I want you to think about why. Why you answered the way you did. Why do you prefer snow? Why is your favorite month October? Why did you answer these questions with those answers? Once you've worked out the why, we're going to quickly think about how we could take two of these answers, so two of the answers that you made to these questions, and what project could we make around them? Say if you answered snow and October, could that turn into a book about something quite spooky and cold? Or say if your favourite item of clothing is dungarees and your favourite colour is orange, could that turn into some sort of fashion collection? I just want you to write down in one word or one phrase or one sentence what kind of project you could create through using two of those answers. When thinking about your creative voice, when thinking about how you want to use your art and your creativity, There's some bigger questions we can consider as well, which you will be thinking about and developing answers to over the next few years. So questions like, what do you want to see in the creative world? Who or what or when or what concepts and what groups of people or movements would you like to see represented more? And once you've worked all of that out, what impact would you like to have on your audience? Do you want to make them laugh? Do you want to make them have an existential crisis? Do you want to make them cry? What impact would you like to have on the people looking at your work? And if you were to be given a project, any project at all, that would really excite you, one that would make you go, oh yes, I've been waiting ages for someone to ask me to do this, what project would that be? What would it look like? And then again, right at the end, do think about why you have answered the way you have. It's important to consider these things because the more you are authentic to yourself and the more you think about the bigger and smaller picture with your creativity, the more driven you'll feel, the less art blocks you'll experience, and the more enjoyment you will get out of the creative work that you do. Because deep down, it's what you want to do, not what you feel obligated to do. Next, we're going to look at avoiding those horrible art blocks. Like I said at the beginning, sometimes ideas are hard to gather. Sometimes looking at that blank page or that blank sketchbook can be really daunting and horrible. And if someone knows that you draw for fun and they come up to you and they say, hey, draw me something. If you're anything like me, your brain turns off at that point. You can't think of anything at all. So exploring how to overcome these art blocks is going to be really helpful. And there's some things that you can think about if you feel one coming on, if you feel a bit stuck with something. There's some things that you may be doing that you might not realize are blocking these ideas. Maybe you need a break. That's the first one I always like to think about. Maybe you just need a little break. Maybe you're not varying your input. So if you're used to just going through Instagram to get inspiration, maybe you need to start looking at other sources of inspiration. Or maybe you're not getting input at all. Maybe you've been staring at this blank page for ages and you've not been putting inspiration into your brain. Perhaps you're not thinking about your questions to do with your creative voice enough and not being authentic to yourself. And maybe you're just staring at this blank page too much. So we're gonna destroy this blank page because they give you a headache, they're horrible, you don't know where to start with them. We're gonna make it not blank anymore. So get a plain bit of paper for me and fold it in half. And then once you're ready, I'm gonna ask you to, in 60 seconds, fill one half of this page with anything. And I mean anything. Words, shapes, scribbles, 18 unicorns, I don't mind. Like, fill it with anything. I don't want anyone sitting there and thinking. I don't want anyone planning. I don't want anyone thinking, oh, what shall I draw? Oh my gosh. Just fill it. So one half of that page has to be full to the brim in 60 seconds. Okay, are you ready? Steady, go. Well done. See, I wasn't that bad. And sometimes it can be, a bit daunting to have someone say, go, draw something. But that 60-second drawing, you don't need to keep it. Like, that's not something you need to keep hold of. I sometimes fish a receipt out of the bin and do a 60-second scribble on it. It's not a thing that's going to go on the wall or go in a frame. This is just to make the first mark, because that's the hardest bit sometimes. Next, we're going to look at having input before you can produce output. If you're still feeling like ideas are a little bit slow and you're still struggling even after a 60-second scribble, maybe you need some more input, and everybody's sources of input are different. Some people will use online sources more, some people will prefer books or podcasts, but there's loads and loads of different input sources that you can explore. And that's exactly what you should be doing, exploring them. Don't just stick with one. Try lots of others, and there can be unexpected places like old photos or old projects that you've done, looking at poetry, communicating with other people, so talking to other creative people about art blocks and ideas and what they're getting ideas from lately. Explore these input sources. I do also want to touch upon social media. So I use social media a lot for gathering my inspiration. I use Pinterest, I use Instagram. It's a fab place. It can be excellent, of course. It is endless and always updated. There can be every style and format and part of art that you can think of on there. However, it is a heavily curated platform in that everybody chooses what they put on there. So the second you start comparing yourself rather than finding inspiration from this work, that's when you need to perhaps step back from social media a little bit. So by all means, use social media, use online sources, but just be aware of how curated it is, and if it starts to be detrimental to you and your work and your mental health, step back from it a little bit. Next, I want to talk about leaving your comfort zone. And there is no better way to be discovering unique ideas and finding more originality than leaving your comfort zone. Because your comfort zone is, of course, lovely. It's called a comfort zone. It's nice to be in it, but not all of the time. Because staying in your comfort zone can hinder new ideas and experiences. You will ingrain errors or inaccuracies or bad habits that you have. And right now is your perfect time to be exploring. So it's the perfect time to be leaving that comfort zone. And there's different ways that you can leave it. There's different ways that you can be exploring leaving your comfort zone. It doesn't just have to be drawing things you find hard. There's other areas you can explore, like trying new formats. If you've not developed a book cover before, this is going to be perfect for leaving your comfort zone. But think about designing, I don't know, garments, or designing products, or designing something to go on the front of a magazine. Explore new ways your art could be used. Do practice areas that you find hard. So for me, hands and backgrounds, I was rubbish at them years ago. But for the last couple of years, I've been focusing really hard on developing those skills, and it's really, really helped. Try out new color palettes, and that can mean limiting your color palettes. We're going to go over color a lot more in, I think, the 4th session for this lot. But trying out new colors and limiting your colors can help to leave your comfort zone too. And of course, exploring new materials and techniques. So trying out different ways to create visuals. It can be really helpful to look at how other artists have started to foster their ideas and develop their creative voice. And not in a way that would be, I'm going to copy them, but in a way that you can take apart the traits to do with their work. So if I was looking at, for example, some of my favorite illustrators in the world, like Natalie Hall and Beatrice Blue, if I were to look at their work, I want my work to have the impact that theirs does. I don't want to copy them because that's unethical and unoriginal, but I would like to have the impact theirs does. So a good exercise to do is to find what traits in other artists' work you enjoy. So not this character looks like this character looks playful, intriguing and colourful for Beatrice Blue's work. Or for Natalie Hall, angular and spooky and full of folklore. So think about the traits of other creative people's work, what you love about them, and how you can start injecting those traits into your creative practice. And of course, as I've mentioned, the importance of taking a break. So if you feel that your ideas are still slow no matter what, if you feel really, really struggling to create something and to put something on paper, maybe you need a break. A really wonderful phrase that I got told years and years ago is burnout lasts longer than a break. If you are stuck, step away from your work for a little while. Move on to something else creative. See if you can try a different part of your project or a bit of personal work. But if that still doesn't work, if that still feels hard, maybe you need to move away from work entirely. And some basics as well. Drink some water and get up and stretch a bit, folks. It can be so easy for us creative people and artists and illustrators to be hunched over the desk all hours of the day, forgetting to drink and eat and pee and all of these things. Make sure you do the basics, okay? At the end of the day, you're still a human being, one would hope. So make sure you are feeding and taking care of that human being. Part of taking breaks and taking care of yourself is ignoring toxic rhetoric. So toxic habits and things that society and the creative world will try and tell you is okay. Things like pulling all-nighters or working all hours of the day or being a stressed, depressed artist struggling in her studio all day. We don't want any of that. We want to be healthy, happy, creative people. So ignore all this toxic nonsense about being struggling and tired all the time, because that's not glamour, that's not to be aspired to, that's unhealthy and it will not help you. Now that we have explored how we can develop these ideas, we need to get them down on something, otherwise they will disappear from our brain forever. So recording these ideas. There's so many different ways to record ideas, and you need to find the one or the many that work for you specifically. So do not feel pressured to be doing the same recording of ideas that everyone else does. If some other technique works best for you, you're still getting the idea down, you're just finding it easier, and that's a win-win. I'm going to quickly go over some recording methods that you could use and that I have used in the past. There is the obvious sketchbooks. They are very open-ended, they are creative, obviously, because they are sketchbooks. They can be very, very satisfying and they're very easy to carry around. One of my favorites is notes and lists. I make so many lists. They are no pressure. They have no aesthetic pressure attached to them. You don't need to make them look beautiful. Sometimes there's a bit of pressure involved with sketchbooks. They can be digital or traditional, so I like to make notes and make lists on my phone. And they're really, really quick. So if you've got an idea, you can quickly write it down in 1 or 2 words and it's done. Sometimes people prefer boards. That can be whiteboards or corkboards, whichever works for you. But there's no physical barrier with boards. If you have one on your wall next to your desk or next to where you work, there's no small barrier of finding a notebook, finding a bit of paper. You can quickly scribble it down and you'd be surprised how much removing that barrier does help. They're a bigger scale, so you can keep an eye on all these ideas, and they're very, very good for if you're like me and you have a chaotic brain. Getting the ideas and the chaos to calm down and be on this giant board can be really valuable. If you prefer to work a little bit more in depth, or you like things to all be digital and all on a computer, maybe blogs and digital mood boards like things like Pinterest will be perfect for you. They're easy to edit and you can add to them. You don't have to print off anything. You don't have to stick anything down. You can just save it. They're shareable, so if you want to use that communication we mentioned earlier to talk to other creative people, you can share your blogs and your mood boards. And of course, you can add links and images super easily. And lastly, another favourite of mine, mind maps. They're really good for keeping track of the core ideas. So if your idea maybe goes off on a bit of a tangent and you don't like where it ended up, you can backtrack into where it was good and take it in a different direction. You can find links that you may have missed between different ideas and link them together. And again, they can be digital or traditional. So digital mind maps can be useful in that they can go on forever. And traditional ones are great because you can do them anywhere. When thinking about how you'd like to record your ideas, it's important to let go of the idea of doing it wrong. There is no wrong way to record your idea here. If you feel pressure to do it the right way, then you're going to go into something that you don't genuinely enjoy. Remember, being honest and authentic to yourself. So let go of the idea of doing this wrong. If you can get your idea down and it works for you, perfect. Another quick activity now, just to reinforce that idea of doing things wrong not being a big deal, is we're going to do a bad drawing. My favourite. On that other half of the bit of paper that you scribbled on it earlier, I want you to draw a beautiful frog. I'm going to leave this little friend up for you. Aren't they adorable? But you're going to draw this frog in 60 seconds, and you're going to draw this frog with your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, use your left. If you're left-handed, use your right. If you're ambidextrous, you're cheating. So 60 seconds on the other half of the bit of paper. I've just realised me and the frog are matching right now. So colour coordinated. Ready, steady, go. So this is why it's a bit annoying me doing this to you digitally like this, a workshop digitally, because I can't now come round and see your beautiful frogs that you've all drawn, but I'm going to trust that they're all stunning. Next, we're going to try a few of these recording ideas. So try exploring these ideas that we just had a look at and how recording your ideas feels for you. And we're going to do that with some really, really simple prompts, and that's just colours. First we're going to look at is using a sketchbook. So grab another plain bit of paper or use the back of the folded one, and I want you to explore through drawings and through quick drawings things that make you think of the colour yellow. And this is just a 2-minute, very, very quick exercise, but using scribbles and drawings and quick little doodles, I want you to explore the colour yellow. And you don't need to actually use a yellow pencil, but maybe draw a sun or a sunflower or things that make you think of that colour yellow. The next one we're going to look at is notes and lists. Remember, one of my favourites. I want you to note down 10 bullet points or 10 little things that remind you of the colour blue. And that can be anything. It doesn't have to be just things that are blue. You can think about blue as more coldness or feeling a bit blue or whatever reminds you of that colour blue. Write down 10 little notes in a list of those things. And lastly is mind maps. So right in the middle, I want you to write the word grey. And from that word, I want you to develop a mind map of things that remind you of grey. And you can develop this mind map however you want. Keep the subjects really nice and broad and then narrow them down as you build the branches. You've got another 2 minutes. Build a mind map around things that remind you of the colour grey. Now that you've explored 3 of these recording techniques, really think about which one you preferred, which one felt easiest, which one allowed you to explore that colour prompt in the best way? Did you find drawing really easy and that you could go off on tangents and doodle and create a visual for yourself? Did you prefer the list, keeping things structured and ordered? Or did you like how the mind map allowed you to link things together? Which one worked and which one helped you develop the most ideas? Now that we've explored how to generate and how to record ideas, we're going to take these skills and tips and put them into our book cover. So let's start developing the first foundation for our book cover designs. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to show you 4 book titles, and they are made up. These aren't real books, there's no author, they're completely made up titles. You are the imaginary author. And you are going to choose one of these book titles, and that's the book you're going to develop a cover for. So here are your titles. You've got The Grey Island, Speaking with Mutes, Clue at Hollow Cottage, or The Missing Fern. These are all written down on your worksheet as well, so just circle the one that you want to do for this project. Now that you have your title, we're going to do a little bit of idea generation around the title, because remember, it doesn't have a story attached to it yet. So using the preferred idea recording method that you explored a minute ago, whether that's drawing, notes, or mind maps, I want you to answer these questions about your book. What genre do you think this story would be? Would it be a horror? Would it be a mystery? Would it be romance? Would it be funny? Would it be fantasy? What direction do you think this story could be? Next would be what characters could be in this story. Would they be human beings? Would they be animals? Would they be something completely different? Would they be good or evil, young or old? What sort of characters would you like to see in this story? And next is thinking about where is this set, and this can be the actual location, like which country, which planet, which city, and what time period as well. Do you want this to be set in the present, the past, or the future? Using those fantastic answers as well, we're going to explore how we can turn this into something visual, because as much as I love writing stories, this is a book cover design session, not a story writing session. So now that we have a bare minimum idea of what sort of story we want to be communicating, we need to think about how we can show that visually. So exploring things like, is the focus going to be on the characters or the setting on this cover? Is it going to be dark and eerie, or really light and cheery and nice and bright and colourful? Are you going to be focusing on a close-up of something important, or a big wide shot of the whole scene? So why is this stage so important? Why have we got a whole session just on idea generation? And the best way I can explain that is if you tried to skip ahead from do the thing, if you went into the first idea that you thought of, all the other ideas that were a potential crumble away. But if you do what we're doing today, where you explore an idea and then think about a different one, and maybe another one, and maybe another one, the idea that you eventually settle on will be so refined and so unique and much, much better explored and true to you. So exploring these ideas first, building this strong foundation, is going to help any project that you go through be more true to you and be just better at the end of it. It's going to be a more refined, wonderful project than if you just defaulted to the first idea you had. Another way to look at it is, like I said, a foundation. So if you had a quick idea for a project, your project's going to be a little bit wobbly. You're not going to be able to balance much on top of that. But if you explored and considered and researched this idea, not only would the project be more stable, but you can build more exciting stuff on top of it because it's a much more solid and unique idea. Now we're going to quickly wrap up on today's session because we're very nearly finished with this one. Do remember to stop worrying about making mistakes or being wrong. There is no being wrong in this idea generation stage. That's one of the best parts about being a visual creative or illustrator or anything artistic or creative. is there are no wrong answers. So let go of that fear of making mistakes. Remember to start rough and refine afterwards. So in the same way that a mind map has a very vague thing in the middle, and you refine the idea as you move out of that thing in the middle, that's the best way to develop ideas and develop projects. Try to do the opposite of the obvious, so avoiding cliches and things that would be expected. If you default to one thing, try flipping it on its head. Turn it round into something completely the opposite. It may not work, it may not be the idea you go with, but it's a good habit to get into to explore different avenues. Do these little 60-second scribbles as well, because they will help you not only leave your comfort zone, but get more comfortable in the future with doing quick, disposable work to start the day. And remember that ideas can and should change. Just because your idea changed from what it initially was doesn't mean that you're wrong, doesn't mean the initial idea was bad, but remember the word, it evolved. It didn't just change, it evolved. This whole thing will form the foundation of your project, so make it a strong foundation by exploring it thoroughly. I'm going to give you a little to-do list as well. These are some things that I want you to do before the next session, and they're not very difficult, they won't take you much time, but they're going to be helpful. First of all, I want you to write down 10 things that inspire you. And that can be anything, a walk in the woods, weird things your cat does, this plant this one time, literally just 10 things that inspire you in particular. And then I want you to, in 2 minutes, set a little timer on your phone and draw 5 made-up faces. Any face with wild hair, crazy eyes, anything at all, just draw 5 completely made-up faces in 2 minutes. Thank you ever so much for taking part today. I really hope you enjoyed this first session. There's going to be loads more stuff to do in the next few. We've got more fun activities, more exploring materials and ideas, and generally being a messy, amazing creative person. So I will see you next time for session 2. Thank you ever so much.